The neon lights of Atlanta's Midtown district reflected off the rain-slicked streets, casting fractured colors across the dark pavement. Inside the Sentinel, a bar frequented by elite military and government personnel, the air hummed with quiet camaraderie, the clink of glasses, and the occasional low laughter of men boasting about past missions. Aaron Bishop, 34, tall and broad-shouldered, walked in quietly. His dark eyes scanned the room with trained precision, noting exits, security cameras, and potential threats. To anyone else, he looked like a well-dressed professional winding down after a long day. But beneath that calm exterior was a mind that had survived covert operations where every second mattered. He approached the bar, placing his order without drawing attention. Aaron had spent the last 8 years working as a federal consultant and covert operative, saving lives that the public would never hear about. Tonight, he simply wanted a drink, a rare moment of anonymity. But anonymity, he quickly realized, was a luxury he wouldn't have tonight. A booming voice cut through the murmur of the bar. "Well, well, look who wandered into our little club," said Victoria Harrington, 42, white, sharp, and commanding. Her icy blue eyes locked onto Aaron, scanning him with the casual arrogance of someone used to controlling every room she entered. She leaned back in her chair, her platinum hair glinting under the bar lights. Before Aaron could even respond, Victoria's smarmy assistant, Logan Price, 28, smirked and whispered to the group around him. Laughter bubbled like a slow, spreading fire. Aaron remained calm, but the subtle shift in the room's energy didn't escape him. Victoria took a glass of beer from the bar and, with a mock flourish, threw it across the counter. The golden liquid hit Aaron's crisp white shirt, running down his chest and staining the fabric. The laughter escalated. "Oops, my mistake, Mr. Bishop," Victoria said with a cruel smile. "I thought you were one of the servers. You're not exactly the type we usually see here." The bar fell into stunned silence for a moment. Every patron, soldiers, government contractors, and veterans, looked at Aaron, expecting a reaction. Most assumed he would apologize, retreat, or fume visibly. But Aaron did none of that. He slowly grabbed a napkin from the bar, dabbing at the stain with deliberate, calm precision. His dark eyes met Victoria's, unwavering, and for a fleeting second, the smirk on her face faltered. "You really want to know my code name?" Aaron asked, his voice low but carrying a weight that silenced even the rowdiest patrons. Victoria laughed, though unevenly. "Sure, let me guess. Office intern? Coffee boy? Or maybe just a lucky civilian who stumbled into the wrong crowd?" The other patrons snickered. Phones were already out, recording every second of the scene. Aaron straightened, the wet fabric of his shirt clinging slightly. He exhaled, calm, every movement precise. "My code name," he said, a ghost of a smile crossing his face, "is Spectre." The word hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. Some of the older veterans in the room exchanged glances, memories stirring of operations that were supposed to be classified. Victoria's arrogance didn't waver immediately. "Spectre? That's original. Do you vanish when things get tough?" Aaron's eyes scanned the room, cataloging every exit, every potential weapon, every ally or threat. "No," he said quietly. "I make others disappear." A ripple of unease spread across the room. Victoria's confident laugh faltered. A veteran sitting in the corner, Thomas Gallagher, 55, leaned forward, eyes widening. Recognition. A legend thought to be myth, a federal operative known only in classified circles. Victoria, oblivious to the growing tension, grabbed her phone, intending to post the spectacle online. "Let's see how many likes we get with a civilian pretending to be an operative," she said, smirking. Aaron's smile sharpened. "You want proof?" he said softly. He leaned closer, every movement controlled, predatory. Operation Nightfall, September 12, 2017. For operatives killed, 8 wounded. Evacuation under hostile fire. I was there. The bar went silent. Phones wavered mid-air. Victoria froze, her confidence cracking. She had just realized that the man she humiliated was no ordinary consultant. Thomas Gallagher stood slowly, pale, whispering under his breath, "Spectre, the ghost operative." Aaron didn't need to say more. The room had shifted. The arrogance that Victoria wielded like a weapon was crumbling. The next morning, Atlanta's skyline shimmered under the first rays of sunlight, reflecting off the glass towers like shards of gold. Inside the Sentinel, the aftermath of the previous night's incident lingered in the air. Whispered conversations, uneasy glances, and lingering tension from the patrons who had witnessed Aaron Bishop's public stand. Aaron sat alone at a corner table, a black coffee steaming before him. His shirt had been cleaned and pressed overnight. The memory of Victoria Harrington's cruel smirk and the beer running down his chest still burned in his mind, not with anger, but with calculation. Every moment of humiliation had been catalogued in his mind. Every weakness exposed. Every arrogance noted. He wasn't here for revenge. He was here to correct an imbalance, to ensure that those who abused power learned a lesson in a language they understood. Across the room, Victoria entered with her usual entourage. Logan Price, still smirking as if nothing had happened, hovered near her shoulder. She scanned the bar, then locked eyes on Aaron. For the first time, her mask of confidence faltered. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. Aaron observed quietly. He noted her posture, her micro-expressions, the subtle way her fingers tightened around her glass. Every detail mattered. In his previous life, overlooking small cues could have been fatal. He pulled out his tablet, pretending to review notes on a fictional case while mentally replaying the incident. The laughter, the phones, the public display. It had been intentional in its impact, but only superficially. What Victoria didn't realize was that the true effect was in the subtle shift she had caused. Every veteran and operative in the bar had begun reassessing her arrogance. Victoria approached, feigning casual conversation. "Mr. Bishop, I trust the incident last night didn't ruin your evening?" Her voice was syrupy, but Aaron noticed the slight edge, the tension beneath the surface. "Not at all, Ms. Harrington," he replied evenly, keeping his tone calm. "I find clarity often comes in unexpected places." Her smirk returned, brittle. "You have an interesting way of putting things. You always speak like that." Aaron tilted his head slightly. "Only when it matters." She laughed, a bit too sharply, and turned toward the bartender. "2 more beers, please. Make it quick." Then, almost as an afterthought, she leaned slightly closer. "Tell me, Spectre, why do you hide behind that code? Aren't you tired of being invisible?" Aaron's eyes scanned the bar again, cataloging exits, noting faces. Every person in this room had a role, and their reactions would determine how events unfolded. He didn't flinch. He simply smiled faintly. "Some ghosts choose when to appear," he said. Victoria blinked, unsure how to respond. This was no ordinary consultant she could intimidate. Her usual tactics, sarcasm, mockery, and displays of power had little effect. The room, too, seemed to sense it. Whispers began again, but now with undertones of curiosity and uncertainty rather than mockery. In the corner, Thomas Gallagher, the retired veteran who had recognized the code name first, nodded subtly at Aaron. It was an acknowledgement of respect, and a warning. The network of veterans and operatives watching from the shadows was extensive. Victoria had underestimated not just Aaron's capabilities, but the influence he quietly wielded. Aaron sipped his coffee, his mind already moving through multiple scenarios. He didn't need to confront Victoria directly yet. Her overconfidence was an ally. Let her make mistakes. Let her underestimate him further. Every action she took, every post she made, every word of arrogance could be turned into leverage. He noticed Samantha Rivera, a young black intelligence analyst who frequented the bar, watching him with wide eyes. She had been recruited into sensitive operations recently and understood the unspoken code. Recognize threats, stay composed, and never act out of emotion. She had a notebook, ready to document.
Arons Kees met Heursbriefly.
A silent message passed. Patience, observation, timing. Victoria, sensing she was losing control, finally leaned in. Mr. Bishop, why do you stay so calm? Most people would have reacted differently. Aaron allowed a ghost of a smile. Because appearances are deceiving. People often reveal more than they intend when they believe they're in control. Her smirk faltered. She didn't fully understand, but some instinct told her she had crossed a line. Aaron stood, quietly finishing his coffee, and moved toward the exit. Every step measured. Every eye in the bar followed him. He didn't need to announce his presence. The aura of experience, discipline, and calculated authority preceded him. Outside, the Atlanta morning was cool and crisp. Rain from the previous night had washed the streets clean, leaving reflections of the rising sun in puddles. Aaron walked calmly, blending into the city crowd, already planning his next move. The seed of doubt had been planted. Victoria Harrington's arrogance was beginning to crack, and when it fully shattered, the consequences would be decisive. As he disappeared into the busy streets, a text pinged on his secure phone. Phase 1 complete. Observation in progress. Target unaware. Proceed on schedule. Aaron allowed himself a faint smile. The game had only just begun. Aaron returned to his apartment in the historic Old Fourth Ward district, the skyline of Atlanta glittering through the large industrial windows. The room was minimalist, no distractions, just the essentials for work and observation. He placed his bag on the floor and sat at his desk, pulling up multiple secure channels. The first message that popped up was from Agent Roland Pierce, a white intelligence operative who had once collaborated with Aaron in joint operations overseas. Roland's calm, analytical tone filled the screen. I've been monitoring Harrington's communications since last night. Social posts, emails, even her private Slack channels. She's reckless. If you move carefully, the information you need will surface. Aaron nodded, though no one could see him. That was the advantage of years in covert operations, the ability to trust instincts, combined with patience and timing. Victoria's arrogance wasn't just her undoing. It was a tool he could use. Meanwhile, across town, Victoria Harrington sat in her corner office on the 33rd floor, reviewing video clips of the incident at the Sentinel. Her face was pale, her confidence shaken. Logan Price hovered behind her, whispering reassurances that sounded hollow even to him. "Spectre," Victoria muttered under her breath, replaying the moment Aaron had revealed his code name. Who is this man? She wondered. She had faced threats before, aggressive competitors, whistleblowers, even cyber attacks, but nothing like this. Something in his calm demeanor and precise movements told her he was far more dangerous than she could comprehend. Her computer pinged, a report from the finance team. Normally mundane, the numbers now seemed to mock her. Aaron had quietly alerted a network of contacts, ensuring that Victoria's internal mismanagement and questionable decisions would begin surfacing in real time. Small discrepancies, overlooked contracts, irregular expense reports, all evidence she had hidden carefully over the years, now flagged automatically in the systems she relied on. Back at Aaron's apartment, he reviewed the data streams. Each revelation was deliberate, calculated. Every misstep Victoria had made, every careless decision, was being documented and stored in a secure, untraceable archive. This wasn't revenge. This was preparation. Justice, built from careful observation and methodical action. Aaron's phone buzzed. A message from Samantha Rivera. Victoria just emailed the board, denying responsibility, claiming everything is procedural. They're buying it for now. Need your move. Aaron's eyes narrowed. He didn't rush. Timing was crucial. Good, he typed back. Let her dig her own hole. I'll strike when the foundation is cracked. Meanwhile, in the heart of the city, Thomas Gallagher was at a veteran networking event. Despite being retired, his connections were vast and loyal. He had quietly observed Aaron's rise within government and corporate circles and had already begun speaking to key contacts about Victoria's growing recklessness. Word of Aaron's integrity, calm authority, and capability had already started circulating. Quietly, like whispers in a shadowed room. Back at the Sentinel, Victoria returned for another late-night gathering with her elite circle. This time, whispers followed her. Some of the veterans who had watched Aaron's calm dominance the previous night began questioning her leadership. The subtle shift in the bar's atmosphere didn't go unnoticed. Confidence in her control was slipping. Aaron wasn't there physically, but his presence lingered. Through careful coordination, he ensured that every ally, every witness, and every potential whistleblower had the information needed to act when the time came. He wasn't just targeting Victoria. He was exposing a network of arrogance, entitlement, and misuse of power. Late that evening, Aaron sat back in his chair, reviewing a series of emails he had intercepted and subtly redirected through Roland's network. Victoria's errors were becoming increasingly blatant. Misleading clients, inflating budgets, ignoring critical compliance warnings. Every step she took to cover her tracks only made the pattern clearer, easier to document, and ultimately more damning. Aaron allowed himself a brief smile. He had faced life-and-death situations overseas, guided civilians through hostile territory, and made impossible decisions under fire. Compared to that, dismantling Victoria Harrington's empire required patience, precision, and timing, qualities he had mastered long ago. Suddenly, a knock at his door broke his concentration. Aaron didn't move immediately, instinctively analyzing the sound. Footsteps, light, measured. A familiar voice whispered from the doorway, "Aaron, it's me, Thomas Gallagher. We need to talk." The veteran stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I've been coordinating with a few other contacts. Your approach is working, but Victoria is starting to sense the pattern. If we accelerate now, we can catch her before she has a chance to cover everything up." Aaron leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "We move too early and she'll adapt. Too late and she'll destroy the evidence herself. Timing is everything." Thomas nodded. "Understood. But there's one element you haven't accounted for yet. Her legal team. They're aggressive and ruthless." Aaron allowed a faint, knowing smile. "Let them come. They'll walk right into the trap we've set." That night, as Atlanta slept under a blanket of neon lights and distant traffic hums, Victoria Harrington sat in her office, unaware of how deeply she had underestimated Aaron. Every decision she had made, every arrogance-fueled comment, every attempt to belittle others, was now part of a growing dossier that would leave her exposed, humiliated, and stripped of authority. Aaron, meanwhile, reviewed his final notes for the night. Each movement, each decision was part of a carefully choreographed dance. When he struck, Victoria wouldn't just lose a battle. She would lose everything she had built. Not through brute force, but through calculated exposure, patience, and relentless intelligence. And in the shadows of Atlanta's streets, Aaron smiled faintly. The game had escalated, but the next move would decide everything. The next morning, Atlanta's streets buzzed with the energy of a city awakening to a new reality. But inside Victoria Harrington's office, the atmosphere was suffocating. Her team of executives sat silently around the polished mahogany table, eyes darting nervously between her and the growing stack of reports that had been circulated overnight. Victoria ran her fingers through her platinum hair, trying to mask the panic gnawing at her. How did this happen?" she muttered, staring at the documents detailing her oversights, financial missteps, and mismanaged communications. Every error she had ever tried to hide, every decision made in arrogance, had been meticulously compiled and delivered to the board anonymously. Logan Price, pale and uneasy, swallowed hard. We don't know. Everything was secure. We didn't leave a trace." Victoria's icy blue eyes snapped to him. "I don't care. Fix it. Now." But deep down, she already knew it was too late. Across town, Aaron Bishop observed the unfolding chaos from his secure apartment. Screens displayed internal emails from Victoria's company, leaked memos, and board communications. Every move he had orchestrated, subtle exposure of mismanagement, careful redirection of documents, coordination with Thomas Gallagher and other veteran allies, had begun to dismantle her empire without a single overt confrontation. Aaron's phone buzzed. Samantha Rivera's text appeared. "Board is calling an emergency meeting. Victoria is panicking. They're asking about the anonymous dossier. Everyone is pointing fingers." Aaron allowed himself a faint smile. Good. Let her crumble. Meanwhile, in the boardroom, Victoria's veneer of authority collapsed completely. Board members questioned her decisions, citing irregularities, negligence, and blatant arrogance in leadership. Whispers of Aaron's involvement, the mysterious consultant known only as Spectre, circulated, adding to her unease. One board member, Ethan Wallace, a veteran executive with sharp instincts, leaned forward. "Ms. Harrington, these documents are detailed, accurate, and, frankly, damning. How do you explain this?" Victoria's mind raced. Every excuse felt hollow. I don't know who could have done this," she stammered. Aaron watched quietly from afar, noting every twitch, every micro-expression. He didn't gloat. There was no satisfaction in humiliation alone. His goal was to expose truth, to ensure accountability. The door to the boardroom opened, and Thomas Gallagher stepped in, commanding respect with his mere presence. "Gentlemen, ladies," he began, his voice steady and authoritative. "I believe you've received the facts. What you're witnessing is not mere incompetence. It's arrogance unchecked, and it's dangerous." Victoria froze. She hadn't expected him. Her panic spiked as she recognized the weight of his presence. A retired veteran whose reputation commanded respect. Aaron's message had been clear. She was being confronted not just by the system, but by a network of people who valued integrity and honor over power and pretense. Thomas continued, "The person responsible for bringing these facts to your attention prefers to remain anonymous, but the precision, accuracy, and intent are clear. They've acted to ensure accountability where oversight failed." Victoria's pulse quickened. The board was looking at her differently, not as a capable leader, but as someone who had failed spectacularly. Back at Aaron's apartment, he reviewed the unfolding reactions in real time. Victoria's social media posts, once carefully curated to present power and authority, now faced scrutiny. Screenshots of her arrogant comments from private groups, where she had mocked employees and belittled colleagues, circulated rapidly. Even her allies began questioning her judgment. The network of veterans, executives, and consultants Erin had quietly engaged ensured that every attempt she made to regain control only highlighted her failings. By midday, Victoria Harrington was summoned to a public hearing with the board. Cameras were present, capturing every moment for internal documentation. The irony was not lost on her. The same need for public recognition she had wielded like a weapon was now being used to expose her. Erin monitored the situation from a distance. He could have intervened directly, but he allowed events to unfold naturally. Timing was critical. The impact of Victoria's exposure was greater when she believed she was still in control. In the boardroom, Victoria faced a series of pointed questions. Financial discrepancies, mismanagement of projects, and reckless leadership decisions were highlighted one by one. Her explanations were flimsy, her confidence eroded. Every attempt to assert authority was met with evidence to the contrary. Thomas Gallagher's presence loomed large. His reputation as a veteran and strategist lent credibility to every assertion he made. The room's dynamics shifted decisively. The board's patience wore thin, and the narrative of Victoria's competence collapsed. Erin allowed himself a moment of reflection. Every action, every calculated move, every piece of evidence had led to this moment. Victoria Harrington, once untouchable, now faced the consequences of a lifetime of arrogance, negligence, and underestimation of those she deemed inferior. As the hearing concluded, Victoria was escorted from the boardroom. Her empire, carefully constructed over decades, had been exposed to scrutiny, humiliation, and eventual dismantling. Erin didn't celebrate. He simply observed. The lesson had been delivered. Accountability had been restored. Integrity had triumphed. That evening, as the sun set over Atlanta, Erin walked the quiet streets, blending into the shadows as always. He knew this was only a chapter, not the conclusion. Arrogance and entitlement would always resurface, but so would vigilance, patience, and strategic action. He sent one final message to Thomas Gallagher and Samantha Rivera. Phase 2 complete. Ensure monitoring continues. Justice isn't about punishment. It's about preventing repetition. In the distance, the city lights shimmered, reflecting off the wet streets like mirrors. A lesson had been delivered, silently but decisively. The ghost had moved, observed, and struck, without a single overt confrontation, without personal vengeance, yet with consequences that would resonate far beyond the walls of the Sentinel and the boardroom. Erin smiled faintly, disappearing into the Atlanta night, already planning the final steps to ensure lasting accountability. Weeks had passed since Victoria Harrington's fall from grace, and Atlanta's corporate and military circles buzzed with the story. What had begun as a single moment of arrogance in the Sentinel had snowballed into a nationwide lesson in accountability, strategy, and the quiet power of intelligence. Erin Bishop walked through the streets of Midtown, blending effortlessly into the crowd. People rushed past, oblivious to the man whose calculated actions had reshaped an empire. But Erin didn't need recognition. His satisfaction came from balance restored, from the principles of integrity triumphing over unchecked arrogance. Inside the Sentinel, the bar itself had changed. The Wall of Honor, once a display of traditional military heroes, now included a broader spectrum of personnel. Veterans, operatives, and unsung heroes who had saved lives in silence. The bar had become a symbol, not of elitism, but of vigilance, respect, and character. Thomas Gallagher sat in a quiet corner with Samantha Rivera, reviewing the latest updates. The board has formally terminated Harrington's leadership, Thomas said. They're restructuring, implementing new oversight measures. Your strategy worked flawlessly. Samantha nodded. And no one even knows how precise the orchestration was. You've created change without creating chaos. Thomas allowed himself a faint smile. That's the way true influence works. Subtle, deliberate, and unavoidable. Meanwhile, Victoria Harrington's world had collapsed entirely. Her empire, once gleaming and unassailable, now lay exposed. Legal battles consumed her days, while former allies distanced themselves to protect their own reputations. Social media posts, public reports, and internal documentation continued to circulate, each emphasizing her negligence and arrogance. Every attempt to salvage her image only underscored her failures. Aaron observed quietly from a distance. He didn't gloat. His satisfaction was in the lesson learned, in the prevention of future abuses of power. Justice had been delivered, and balance restored, without personal vendetta. Across the city, the ripple effects continued. Veterans and employees who had been silently overlooked or belittled began stepping forward with their expertise and stories. Programs inspired by Aaron's strategic exposure of Victoria's failings were implemented. Mentoring programs, integrity workshops, and accountability training became the standard. One evening, Thomas Gallagher approached Aaron in person. "The impact of what you've done is remarkable," he said. "Not just for Victoria, but for the culture she helped perpetuate. You've shifted perspectives, quietly but permanently." Aaron nodded. "It's not about individuals. It's about principles. Leadership isn't power over others. It's responsibility toward them." Meanwhile, Samantha Rivera received a call from a federal oversight agency. "They want to interview you regarding the Harrington case," she said. "Your notes, observations, everything. They see the strategic impact." Aaron smiled faintly. "Coordinate carefully. Provide facts, not conjecture. Let them see the evidence without embellishment." Across town, in the newly restructured offices formerly led by Victoria, employees cautiously navigated a new era of transparency and accountability. Fear had been replaced with vigilance, arrogance replaced with respect, and entitlement replaced with responsibility. The ghost of oversight, Aaron Bishop's silent intervention, lingered in every decision, guiding without presence, influencing without acknowledgement. As weeks turned to months, Aaron's life returned to its quiet rhythm. His apartment overlooked the city skyline, a reminder of the stakes that had once been navigated in shadows. But the real victory wasn't in his solitude. It was in the enduring lessons embedded in the systems, in the people who now understood that actions carried consequences, and arrogance could never stand unchallenged. One evening, Thomas Gallagher approached Aaron with a small envelope. "This came for you," he said. Aaron opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note. "To the one who reminded us all that accountability is not optional. Thank you. The system is better for your intervention. Anonymous board member." Aaron folded the note with precision, placing it alongside his other records. No one needed to know his identity. The impact was enough. Meanwhile, Victoria Harrington, isolated and embattled, reflected on the choices that had led to her downfall. The lessons she had mocked, the integrity she had ignored, and the arrogance she had wielded like a weapon now defined her public image. Every opportunity she had squandered served as a cautionary tale for future leaders. Aaron, walking through a quiet Atlanta evening, allowed himself a final reflection. The city lights shimmered in puddles, the reflections distorted yet beautiful. A lesson had been delivered, not through force, not through vengeance, but through patient observation, strategic action, and unwavering adherence to principle. He sent a final message to his allies. Mission complete. Monitor, guide, and ensure continuity. Leadership is accountability, not intimidation. Legacy is built in actions, not words. The streets were silent, yet the echoes of his interventions remained in the systems, in the culture, and in the people. A ghost had moved, unseen but impactful, leaving justice, order, and integrity in his wake. And as Aaron disappeared into the night, Atlanta itself seemed to hold its breath. A city subtly but irrevocably changed by the quiet hand of a man who understood that true power lies not in dominance, but in the unwavering pursuit of right action.